Hello and welcome to Intertextual Cardboard Experience, where we'll be exploring fun and liminarials with our illuminating 34th guest, Carl Robinson. How are you doing today, Carl?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, Ryan. Exploring fun and luminarials, did you
La
say?
I said I don't know if I'm pronouncing it
La
right. Liminarials. That's what my
ah.
very in-depth Google search scientific name for kelp.
Oh, nice. I was like, I don't know if I should know that one. That's Google has done one over on me there because wow, yeah. I didn't I've done some research on Kelp, but I ain't got that deep.
Yeah, again, I've done no research on kelp, so I just but just goes through, name, class, all those different things. I'm like, oh, well, we'll
It's cool.
see how it is. But
You learn something new every day.
yeah, well, we could also in the future learn that I'm wrong, which happens pretty frequently, right? But yeah, I guess kind of before just asking about some of your gaming background and a little bit about you, I just think it's a pretty fun story. I we kind of communicated this a little bit, but I don't think I actually told you the full story. And that's that this past December, I went to my first convention at PAX Unplugged, and I didn't have like a buy list. Some people go to conventions to buy things. I went there for the indie games night market and just to kind of experience traveling and doing all sorts of different things. But
Hmm.
there was like one or two games on my list, and honestly, it may have just been one, and I wanted to get the deluxe version of Kelp, and it wasn't there. So mild addendum here. Listening back to this part, I heard myself say that Kelp Deluxe was not at PAX Unplugged, and that wasn't what I meant to say. I meant to say that Kelp Deluxe was sold out at PAX Unplugged, which is why I was unable to get it there and had to purchase it afterwards, and is also why, in the proceeding conversation, Carl thinks that it wasn't there and tries to work out the timeline. But that's only because I was a goof and said something that I didn't mean to say. On my travel back, I was able, it came back in stock on the online store that I had, got my notification, and I bought it. So I technically didn't buy it at the convention, but it was like my first convention purchase because it was the only game I really bought that weekend, and I thought that was really funny. And then you had kind of on Instagram just mentioned that you found this podcast and that you were
Yep.
enjoying it, and then we connected, and I just think that the coincidence was pretty funny. So
Yeah, the stars aligning there. Both simultaneously got interested with some with the other's output, and yeah, that's cool. I yeah, I guess when was PAX Unplugged? That was sort of you said it was November,
uh early December, I want to
early
say.
December.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Kelp would have been probably it was sort of at the end of the wrap up of the Kickstarter campaign and sort of slowly moving into distribution since then. And so yeah, that tracks. How was PAX Unplugged overall? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it overall. I'm not much of a city person, and just kind of managing travel and being not even that far away from the convention hall, but getting to and from, and I,
Mm.
I brought a little game for that indie games night market, so just over stressing about that took away a
Hmm.
little bit, but I had some really good like experiences, got to play some fun games and just talk with people, and I'm really glad that I went. So
Right, right. Yeah, we I here the only really the only well like there's Brussels Games Convention which happens every year, which is pretty small, but the only real convention I go to is Essen every year, and that always feels like a I mean even if you go for a day, it feels like a week because it's just so massive. But yeah, I know that experience, kind of the travel, the there's all that tied into it, and then there's the buzz of the event and the games, and I find it's worth it in the end, even with all of that baggage that goes along.
Yeah, I just, there are those people that they go to, all of the conventions all the time. And obviously, if you're a publisher to a degree, you kind of have to. And I don't know. I can't imagine that. I feel like that'd be way too socially taxing for somebody like me, but
I think it's probably akin to being like a member of a band, just constantly on the road and yeah, or like we were talking just before about theater, my background in theater, and it's the same reason probably I didn't end up long term in as a theater maker because I just can't. I like home comforts. I like this, the reliability of home and being on the road a long time. Oof, not for me either.
well, I think we're definitely in alignment there for sure too. So that's funny. But yeah, I did mention that I have a little bit of a surprise, but before getting to that, just reflecting on you and your gaming background a little bit with my newer introductory question, and that's having you reflect on either a formative gaming memory that kind of like you remember that made you fall in love with board games, or a gaming experience that was more recent that reaffirmed that love or reminded you of that love of board games.
Yeah, gosh. I mean, I have really fond memories of playing games as a kid. Nothing particularly revolutionary, but just checkers, drafts with my grandfather and Scrabble with him, and playing traditional card games, rummy and things like that with parents. I have a pretty strong memory of playing Grape Escape.
Hmm.
Did Grape Escape? It was like a actually there's a I've seen a newer dungeon crawl with the same mechanism, but it's like a roll and move game for kids, but they are little Play-Doh grapes that you make molds out of, and you chop them. There's a pair of scissors around the board, a bit like Mousetrap, and you chop the chop the head off a grape and squish it under a boot and stuff like that. But I guess a lot of that time games were just sort of built into the culture of I just remember all families around us sort of played the odd game, and um, it wasn't particularly, we didn't do any differently to anybody else around us. Um, I suppose it wasn't really until I got into like high school, secondary school, where I really wanted to play games, like, and I didn't really know anything outside of card games. So, like, I'd be at school, we'd have a free period or something, and I'd be like, "Please, let's play a card game in the common room or something." And I remember there was a period of time when we started playing, and I apologize for the curse. I know this game by no other name except Shithead. Um, yeah, I think it does have some other names, but that's the only one I know it as. It's a shedding it's a shedding game where it has for a kind of a little traditional card game. I think it has some pretty cool hooks about it. The cards have some special powers to them, and they burn the deck or reset the deck for as a kind of as you're shedding. And
Hmm.
we would play that a whole bunch in the common room, and I heard as well, like I played it through the period of time when I was at school and then through to university. And as people went off on gap years between at like 18, between going from school to university, a lot of kind of friends did. They came back from those gap years talking about how on the tour, on the kind of the circuit, the traveling circuit, like through Asia and through Australia in hostels and places like that, everyone was playing this game. And so they brought back all these different rules for it, and they said, "Oh, the sevens do this, or the nines do this in the game." And I was absolutely taken by that idea that the game could be kind of modified and changed. And so I started like going, "Oh, okay, then maybe the nine should be a higher or lower card. The next card played should be higher or lower because the nine's sort of somewhere in the middle of the deck." And I was starting to make kind of decisions, and I think both that was the kind of beginning of me really wanting to play games a lot more, in a way, discovering kind of design as well through that process. So I think that was pretty formative, and still to this day, I would love to make a version of that game that was a little more balanced, a little more streamlined. But um, it's yeah, I think that for me, playing that game through that period, pretty formative.
Nice. That sounds really cool. A couple of reflections when you mentioned Grape Escape, I don't think I've seen this or heard of it, but when you were describing the newer one, the name did pop in my head. I think the game you're mentioning was Necromolds,
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
which I also haven't played, but when you were talking about it being like Play-Doh, I'm like, oh, I think there's only one game that could make that fit. But it is interesting too, just kind of like those reflections on like some of these more traditional card games and their variations and how they have like these different regional uh differences. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's fun that like you had a group of friends that all went out and played something a little bit different but similar, and
yeah,
that's just like a
yeah. I think there's a ton of interesting things about to be gained from classical card games, and I think was it you had Marceline Lehman on your podcast a little while ago,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, and she was saying that the like I think she's did diving really deep into those classic card games now, and because of the well, they've stood the test of time in many ways, but they've also got these kind of they've just been sort of designed by the masses over time. And so there's a lot of, I think because they've stood the test of time, because they've been through so many iterations that they've really streamlined and, well, sometimes they've not streamlined, sometimes they've bloated, but often they've kind of streamlined down to a really interesting core or something really interesting stuck along the way. And yeah, it's something um, I would love to I would love to spend more time digging into it, especially trick-taking games and all of those, the history of all those kind of games as well. There's just so much there, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think diving into it and like actually doing some study, because I think a lot of people like us included grew up playing them in some capacity, but deep diving it like you mentioned, I think could definitely shed some light. And if you can even tie into some of those fun regional quirks, or even naming differences as to like why one place calls it this as opposed to one calls it that, I don't know, I think you could definitely gain a lot from that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Neat. Well, I think let's kind of get to this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to I'm springing a lot on you right at once, and I hope that it's not too much. So you can
Oh, I'm ready.
slow me down at any point. But this was my thought. So I have a Google Doc, and this is an absolute first. So I am going to be sharing a Google Doc. I'll send it over. We're on Zoom, so I will share it with you. It should be set up in a way that this is yours. You can edit this, all right?
All right.
Um, and one of the things that you've been reflecting on a bit in various social media are these different types of fun. So I don't want to oversimplify it, and you can correct me once I'm done
Hmm.
introducing this, but you've been reading, different books, and I don't actually haven't really looked into the books too much, so I don't know if they are like fun related to board games or just fun in general. And you've come up with a list of 20 kind of like types of fun that you think are worthwhile in breaking down our experiences, more or less. And
Yeah, yeah, yep.
And so what I did, and this is actually, so you have your form, I have my own as well. So what I'll do is like when this is all said and done, well, or once this episode's published, I will share out my Google Doc, not yours. Yours is yours. You can keep
Okay.
it. I'll share out the one that I'm working on, and it'll kind of like make more sense as we go along. But we're going to kind of randomly, I will roll a D20. You know, audience doesn't get to see this, but I have like a really fancy chip theory dice tower. I'll pull
Nice.
I'll pull a
Show me
D.
that again.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, I'll slow it down. Yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. That
this
looks
is
like it looks
there.
kind of marble.
Yeah, this is the one that came with my big Hoplomachus like pledge, right?
Oh yeah, that's good. Is it soft inside? Is it like padded at the bottom or is it hard?
Oh, it's soft at the bottom. It's got like this
Oh, that's
felt
nice.
felt bottom.
Nice soft rolling. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of dice towers that go clickety clack. Like I like
Mm,
a kind of soft, smooth one that rolls. It's got that elegance.
yes. I typically don't even use this. I usually just use I have like a smaller dice tray, but
Uh-huh.
this will be nice. I'll see. Actually, I have a whole bunch of bags of dice. I should probably grab this beforehand that have all my like D20s in them. Actually, no. I think I have a bag that has all my dice in them in general. Anyway, so I'll roll a die,
Great.
a D20, and if it's a number that we haven't done, we'll take a look at that number. And all I want you to do to start is see if you can come up with a game that when you're thinking about these different types of fun that just like pops into your head.
Hmm.
But if you're kind of like struggling with the particular number, we've got some re-rolls on this sheet at the bottom.
Oh, yes.
So you can like take a pause. We'll copy and paste one of those re-rolls into that example for now, and then maybe
Right.
return to it. Furthermore, and I think this is fitting with the aquatic theme, there are some deep dive stars. So if once you're done kind of working through the examples here, if you want to be like, oh, I really want to talk about the thrill of danger and this game, we
Hmm.
can copy and paste one of those stars into that special column. Okay.
Yep.
And if you want more stars, I think I put five there. We can add more. We don't need to like limit ourselves, but I figure like talking about five in depth and so on could definitely get us a lot of
Yeah, it
a
seems
lot
seems
of
like that.
time.
This should be adequate, I think.
And potentially other stuff after. I mean, again, I'll the way things go. And then also, if you want, I in the specials area, I have like medium dives. So if there are other text types such as like shows or movies, which I have captured just in the one
Hmm.
kind of director's cut thing, a book, video game, or music that you feel would be fun to come up with another title for that particular type of fun. Um, we can copy and paste that in, and then we can talk about that once we just get through the list.
Great.
All right.
Sounds good. Yeah, sounds fun.
Okay, so before we start it up, before I roll the first D20 roll, I guess do you want to kind of initially explain where where this interest started for you and kind of like what you've been reading and thinking about before we talk about some examples?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah, gosh, where did it start is a good question because I'm not entirely sure how I first got onto it. I mean, I at some point I was just doing some digging around, I think, and reading and on general kind of game design principles. I'd I'd read Jesse Shell's Book of Lenses, which is a fantastic introductory book on game design, and in a way, there's a lot of crossover to this kind of way of thinking a little bit more granular about, well, in this case, fun, but a little bit more granular about that in with his book. But I first came across a post from Alexander Garneau. I want to make sure I get his full name correct. Let me just see my um, Pierre Alexander Garneau. That was it, Pierre Alexander Garneau. He had a post called 14 Forms of Fun. And I think Pierre Alexandre was a more of a video game designer, or at least more interested in video games. So it was just a blog post that was written quite a few years ago, talking more about, like I said, game design, video game design. But I was kind of captivated by that idea that fun is a lot more complex than often we give it credit for. Often, when you hear about someone describing a game or a gamer saying a designer saying what they would like the game to be, they say, "Oh, I want it to be fun." But I sort of got me thinking, well, what does that really mean? What are we talking about when we say a game is fun or that was fun? Um, and so off the back of that, I started looking around, and I think um, that post referenced another post of Nicole Lazzaro, who's another game designer, and she had four kinds of fun, and they were big, kind of broad groupings of it, and I found that interesting. And then I just kept going further and further and found some more, and there was a few that were more less related to board game design or to game design in general. So Dr. Stephen Rice's 16 basic human motivators. And then Kevin Verbach's, I think it's Verbach, 14 Elements of Fun, Mark LeBlanc's Eight Kinds of Fun. So I'm just kind of spewing that list out just to give people some context if they want to dig into these a little bit deeper, because I think it is a fascinating subject. So yeah, like you said, I've kind of collated a list of 20 based on all of those different lists that I thought were most applicable to board game design. Actually, since then, I've extended it a couple because, like you said, I posted quite a bit of this, quite a bit about this on Blue Sky, and a few game designers have jumped in and suggested others, and so um, I would extend it by two extra to the ones that are missing from this list would be organizing, sorting.
Okay.
Nick Bentley talked about that, and then mischievousness, which I thought was a great one. If you want to add them in on the bottom of the list,
Okay.
but you've only got a D20, so we got a
Yeah, it's
problem
true.
there.
Well, once we get through the 20 random ones, you can come up with the examples for those too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, well,
Um,
so you
do
said
would you like me to read the whole list? Is that useful?
sure, yeah. So
Just as a kind
sorry.
of a summary at the start?
Yeah, let's so people at the start do know what they're going to be getting into of the examples and then some deep dives. Yeah, read through that list. That'll be perfect.
All right. So, application of an ability. That's number one. Two is beauty. Three, being silly. Four's a few kind of clumped together. Challenge, mastery, or problem solving, and or problem solving. Five is collecting. Six is comedy. Seven, completion. Eight, creativity. Nine, discovery. 10, expression. 11 is failing or in air quotes, stupid games. 12, fantasy. 13, narrative. 14, physical activity. 15, power. 16, another kind of grouping of relaxation, immersion, submission. 17, sensation. 18, social interaction or fellowship. 19 is thrill of danger. 20, winning slash competition. And then organizing and sorting was
Sorting.
21,
Yeah,
and mischievousness, 22.
perfect. Okay, so yeah, so we'll start off with the non-new ones, 21 and 22. We'll randomly get get a number and the first kind of board game title that pops into your head, we'll
Okay.
list. And again, if you're struggling to pop it on like have that game pop up for you, you got some re-rolls, which
Yep.
then you can kind of think about that a little bit more when it comes back. And say if number two beauty is rolled, and then like I do roll another two just for the sake of not like wasting a whole bunch of time, we'll just like hop down to the next available one underneath. So
Okay, cool, cool.
we'll do it that way. All right, that's going into the dice tower. The first one that we have is 18, social interaction and fellowship.
Mm. Um, well, the first game that jumps to mind for me is Robinson Crusoe Adventures on the Cursed Island, which maybe that's just my own personal experience because it's pretty crushing, brutal game at times, but it's one of the few co-ops that I really enjoy, and we've I got a group of friends that we've had a lot of good experiences going through that, and I think the fellowship part of trying to survive together and the highs and lows of that, and it's a very it's a game that stimulates a lot of conversation and a lot of planning and teamwork. And we had this one moment many years ago where we were playing it into the early hours of the morning. And I used to live in a block of flats, and we got down to the kind of last turn. It was do or die. We needed another bit of wood on the fire before the boat arrived to save us, and we were all about to die. And my friend found some mushrooms while out on a hunt and came back, and we managed to get the last log on the fire, and we we just have this vision, all of us sitting around the fire eating these mushrooms, which may or may not have been poisonous or hallucinogenic. Um, well, the campfire saved us through the night, and so this like final moment, we were all going to die. And when he got those mushrooms, we jumped up and cheered, and the neighbors next door banged on the wall. And I was thinking, oh man, we've managed to wake up neighbors at 3 o'clock in the morning with a board game. If only they knew what we were actually doing. It wasn't a party or anything like that. So, yeah, I think that's the one for fellowship more than the social interaction part. But there you go.
Perfect. Well, I like that a ton, and we got our first one in. And just as a kind of a not a clarification or heads up, but just know that any point, like all of those like little specials with the like a deep dive star or like a different text in a different medium, if you ever want to like throw those into that final column, like I really want to talk about
Yeah,
social interaction or fellowship more like after, do it. Like that's you have the control of that, all right?
got it.
But that sounds
Right.
like an awesome example, and I've definitely heard of the, Robinson Crusoe, but I have not played it, so I really like that story. Okay, well, we have half of 18. The next one is 9, so Discovery.
Mm. Um, well, immediately, Near and Far, the Ryan Laukat Red Raven Games design jumps to mind because for anybody who doesn't know, it's a game with a storybook. You're going out on a map of these kind of fantasy worlds, building camps and traveling across the world and going on adventures. And the I think this, in terms of like fun, a game that kind of epitomizes that version of fun, Discovery. I think there are games that probably do the discovery part even better, like Seventh Continent, which I haven't played but I know of, and games that really harness the essence of discovery. But I think certainly a pretty substantial part of Near and Far as well. Because you'll build a camp somewhere on a far outpost or in a new town that is you're kind of just discovering for the first time. Open up this book and you go off on an adventure, and the adventure takes different paths and different ways, and it's always a you're discovering you're really discovering the world through that process, and all sorts of strange things can happen from a robot magician that's buried under the ground to a frog that's lost its parents, or like all sorts of I don't even know if those are exactly the stories in the book, but certainly things like that. And Yeah, I Discovery is one of those forms of fun that I am fascinated by because I think and maybe we can let's put a deep dive on
Okay.
Discovery because I want to hear your thoughts on this as well.
Okay.
Uh,
Yeah.
um, Discovery to me is really interesting because of like the nature of Discovery is often about surprise. It's like and surprise can only happen once, and you can't be expecting it in a way to be surprised. And so I'm fascinated by those games that the tension between discovery and replayability, and if replayability is even necessary in a game that is about discovery, if it is just about that first moment. And discovery, I think, is also interesting as a form of fun because it can be kind of incremental as you go along. It can be lots of little discoveries or a game can have one big discovery. It can be a discovery that the game gives you through narrative, or it can be discovery that the game gives you through play, through the social interaction. It's a discovery about your friends, or it's a discovery about a piece of hidden information that we've been waiting for some time, and it suddenly gets revealed. And I think discovery is also really interesting because of the kind of tension as well around horror and how horror as a genre is within board games certainly is only just really being scratched the surface of with games like Final Girl and things like that. Were you playing? You were playing Final Girl, am I right?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I did one of my solo rambling talks. I talked about Final Girl a little bit. So, and
And has
if
that
I
got
like
an element of discovery in it?
so yeah, it's like right behind me in that big werewolfy looking box. Right there it is.
Oh
That's my
yeah.
Final Girl set. Let me try to think about. It's been a minute. I've only played that a few times now. Um, so I think for Final Girl, there's good discovery in, each map is going to have a small kind of like mini decks of cards for like equipment or events that are happening based on the locations that are on that map. So I think that's where like the biggest bit of discovery and narrative comes
Mm.
from for that. So because there
And are
are so
they
many.
something? Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no. So and because it's like such a modular game, I think it's just a lot of those moments and, you know, being able to like, pop open the new scene or character or whatever is what's really going to drive the discovery in that one. And like a lot of the fun cinematic moments too, which I think is a strength of the game for sure.
Yeah, I mean that makes me think because is the discovery there, is that happening? For example, are these items, these objects, are they face down or something like that during the game and you discover them, or are you discovering them as you unpack that scenario?
Yeah, yeah, you shouldn't be I mean, I think you probably run the mildest risk of seeing what's going to be in it, but on the whole, I think just the kind of like the event deck and the items and everything like that, even if you like just get a glimpse at them and like, turn them over so you can shuffle them and not see them, like you really shouldn't be discovering them upon setup, I don't think.
Hmm. Right, right, right. It's because I was thinking if you were discovering them as you kind of unpack the scenario, that in a way that's almost like the booster pack philosophy of uh, TCGs and things like that. There's this form of fun discovery is so far-reaching actually within board gaming. I mean, you could also say the discovery of just a new board game and the fun of constantly getting new games and things. And so it's it's a fascinating one and a really powerful form of fun for designers to think about, and um it's addictive, I would imagine, that constantly wanting to discover something new. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, now that you mention it too, one of the games I've played quite a bit of is I mean, has a very similar feel to the TCGs, but would be unmatched. You get
Hmm.
new unmatched characters and you just kind of want to see how those play. And that's another thing too. Yeah, I could look at every single, I don't know if it's like 30 cards or whatever per character, something like that. You could like look through them and get an idea of what your character does, or you could just like shuffle them up and then and just see what happens when you draw. It's like, what can I do in the
I love
moment
that. Yeah,
of play? And that's the way I've always done it. I'm not like terribly competitive when it comes to those, so.
yeah, I think that's another reason I got into this. uh, just circling back to the kind of reason I got thinking about fun is because I was at a period in my kind of own gaming where I was a little bit dissatisfied playing some games, and I realized it wasn't the game's fault necessarily. It was something within me where I was too focused on the winning competitive side of fun. And I think it is important to try to win, to strive to win in a game so that the game functions and it is competitive. But when that is your sole purpose or your main purpose or your main source of satisfaction with the game, then often you are left disappointed when you don't win. And um, once I kind of realized that there were other things, or I just became more conscious of the other things that were satisfying in games, and it was also about spending time with friends, which of course I knew, but I just never really acknowledged that was something I, yeah, I can control that a little bit. I can let go of my need to win so much or be satisfied by the victory. And so, once I got that, it unlocked, I think, a whole new appreciation of board gaming and the depth of why we play games and why I play games.
Yeah, yeah, that I mean that makes a ton of sense. And I think, like that thought too of being competitive to the point where you do, you know, lose some of the other elements of fun or you're so locked into one. Obviously, you know, I think it goes without saying that like 1 through 22 or 1 through 22 and beyond of these, like they're not going to exist in a vacuum. Like
Mm.
many games capture many of these different things in different ways. Um, but yeah, if you're so locked into just like trying to win, by doing whatever, whether it's like a digital game or a board game and you become like that expert. I mean, like, yeah, there's so many things that you're going to shut yourself off from because, I mean, you might play with people and you want to teach them your favorite game that you've played 100 times and it's
Yeah.
their first time playing it. And it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't like tap into, maybe a little bit of like discovery of the game or some of the social elements or whatever that might be, like, yeah, you're just going to be a little too locked in. So,
Mm, mm.
nice. Well, very cool. I think the discovery, like we put a special star on it. We can definitely hop back. We obviously chatted about it a little bit more, but you're bringing up a
Yep.
lot of thoughts during it that I thought were really interesting, and well, I'll hold on to those too. But we have near and far
We
as
got a
the
new role.
the answer for that. Oh, wow! The dice have listened to our conversation. We hit 20, winning / competition.
Okay. Well, congratulations. You won. You won the dice rolling competition. Yeah, natural 20 there. Um, what's the game that I think about now with winning competition? I tell you what I can do as a quick thing, which might be interesting, would be to, because I keep board game stats.
hmm
Do you do board game stats? Do you track your plays or anything like that?
I, for the most part, have been tracking them on Board Game Geek. I haven't used BG Stats, I don't think. I have maybe used one of the different ones. But yeah, if I go on Board Game Geek, I can definitely see how many games I've played, at least in the past like 2 or 3 years.
Because I was curious what my like best my my strongest game is. What's the
Oh.
game I'm gonna what's that question? You can pick a game to play against the devil, and like which one are you gonna pick? It's like, or which game are you gonna pick if you got to play it for your life? If your life is on the cards, which one is it? Um, oh, I've got a pretty good win percentage in this, and this is an interesting game to talk about. Um, it's a game called Shanghaian.
Hmm.
And I've got a 72% win rate across 33 games, which I think is pretty decent rate.
hmm
Shanghaian is a criminally underrated game, in my opinion. It's by Michael Schacht, and um, it came out, oh God, it came out almost must be over 10 years ago now. The artwork on it is not, no offense to the illustrator, but the artwork leaves a lot to be desired, and it's very cartoony. It's these cartoony pirates, and the colors just are not great. It's just not a very good production. But the game is it's like a precursor to me to something like Hanama Koji or Air, Land, and Sea. It's a two-player dual game. It's a lane battler, but it's a lane battler where you're rolling dice and placing them,
Hmm.
and it is. You basically have six each round. You have six cards laid out in a line, and the first player rolls, and they choose which end of the line is one and which end of the line is six, and then they place one of their dice next to the matching card. Like so, if they have rolled a four, they can choose where in the line the four is or that first turn, and they place their four next to that card, and they've now got a kind of majority over that card. And they've also defined for that round the which order the cards are going to go in, which has some interesting decisions in it. And then the next player rolls two dice, picks one of them, places it, and you kind of go backwards and forwards trying to gain control over these cards. And then it's got a sort of Reiner Knizia hook at the end where when you score the cards at the end, they're in sets and in like families, and they've got different point values. If you have all of the cards in the set and or your opponent has none, if you have some and your opponent has none, then you score all your points. But if you have the majority of cards in the set and your opponent has some, then instead you score their points. So it kind of you get this kind of chicken game of chicken with all these different sets where you're trying to get as close, you're trying to be in a very tightly fought battle, but just be one point ahead. Or if your opponent's got a big majority, then you're just trying to get 1 point in the suit to kill their score. Um, and yeah, I absolutely love it. I wish it would get a reprint, and I'm pretty good at it, it turns out, according to my stats. So, um,
That's
yeah,
yeah, I think like an interesting element of that too is like I mean that game does sound really neat. I like playing those two player, lane battlers or head to head, lane battler slash lane
yeah, sure.
battler S games quite a bit. And you know, like with like the exploration of kind of like competition or thinking about, winning is like oftentimes you do play those types of games with like the same person as well. Like
Yep.
you and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
and then you can like have the see the metas and counter metas or whatever just like develop and then just really and then it becomes, then it's like linked to that social fun too, the person you're playing with it as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. You just made me think there that because I do love two-player games. I think that is my ballpark. Like the game that I design, the games that I'm designing now are two-player games, two and very much high interaction head to head. And I wonder if it's because in a way that it because it is head to head, it's the competition is more what's the word I want to say? It's just in a way it's more acceptable to be really cutthroat because you're not kind of gonna all gang up on one person. It's you versus me, and it's zero sum in a way, and the games are built around that, and everybody knows you and your partner usually know why what you're getting into with that, and so um and often the stakes are zero sum. There are often have end game triggers that are earlier, like Seven Wonders Duel, where the game can end earlier than the kind of scoring at the end, or and so there's this tension that's baked into it where um, the stakes are much higher, and so I kind of love that thrill of being head to head against someone, and um, the yeah, and the winning isn't I don't care so much about the winning, but that it's really thrilling because of that, because it is me or you, and I've one of us is going to win this. So yeah,
Yeah, no, yeah, that definitely does. I think, I mean, there are definitely, going to be some people too that when it comes to two-player games, they still would even shy away from something that is so, directly competitive and
right,
are going
right,
to
right.
find something that isn't. But I think, like you said, yeah, it just kind of gives you an excuse. It's like not even an excuse, it's just an accepted element. It's like, okay, I'm gonna, go for something you're going for something I'm going for because it's the only thing that you can go for.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think here let's put a star on this because there's an interesting tangent. I think that's in the conversation in the ball game design conversation right now. online on Blue Sky, and I saw it in just today in Cardboard Edison, the Cardboard Edison newsletter that goes out every Sunday. There's a new publisher set up to that's primarily focused on or solely focused on victorless games, where there's either or unranked games where there's either multiple victors or no victor or no winners, no losers. And I think that's a really interesting thing to think about. Like you were just saying about some people would shy away from that. I'm actually in the sort of because of this new publisher set up and I've seen the talk around it, I've become interested in it myself and started working on a victorless game myself, just ideating and starting very early kind of vision forming around the game. But I believe that it is gonna be an interesting new um, trend or genre within board games. And I think there is a hugely untapped market of people that, like you say, are turned off by that, or just want something like cozy is a real buzzword right now in the hobby, I think, and rightfully so. That people sometimes do just want a nice experience, or they just want to go on an adventure. I love a lot of those. We've played, like I said, Robinson Crusoe, Near and Far. We played Clank Legacy with this same group of friends, and um, I talked to them about this, and I said, "Would you be interested in a game where you just discover stories, you go on adventures, but there's no winner or loser?" And they said, "Those games exist." Yes, sign us up. Yeah, we really don't care about the winning side of things. So um, this is absolutely a double-edged sword, or I don't know what the analogy is, but it's something that some people absolutely thrive on within hobbies. This might be the most important thing for some people, and yet it might be the most turn-off thing for other people. It's possibly the most divisive out of a lot of these.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes like a lot of sense. And yeah, I know that even, just even in like solo games too, you see a little bit more of that thought regarding games without win conditions
Mm.
and thinking about that within the context of something that is solo or cooperative too is not yeah, it's like it's parallel to that thought. It's not necessarily the same as playing a game with like a couple people and just having neither of the two people win, but it's you playing against a system or within a system and then just
Yeah,
having
yeah.
that be that. So,
I mean, that's role playing. That's D&D, right? There is no winning D&D, as they say, right? It's just you do it for the journey, you do it for the all of the things that go along the way, and nobody at the end of it, a session of D&D is declared the winner. It just goes on, and I think there is absolutely a space for that in the hobby, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what's going to happen in the next few years. I know there's been a few releases recently. Um, I think. Is it the something about the shiny something Isla and the shiny
mm,
something is one that
yeah.
maybe I don't know if is victorless or it's certainly in this kind of bucket, and um the Dwarf Romantic that won, did it win the Spiel or nominated for the Spiel a few years ago? That one kind of where it's just goal based and there isn't, it's cooperative but goal based, but there isn't a kind of there isn't a victory condition as far as I know. So yeah, it's fascinating to think about.
Perfect. Well, we we started that dive and there's a star for more, but we've got like three games and two stars, so you gotta hold on to your stars.
Okay. All right, I'll go. We'll do some rapid fire ones then.
No, 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 I'm just kidding. Six, comedy.
Oh man. Well, Clank Legacy, the writing in Clank Legacy, I found hilarious at times. There's some pretty funny characters and funny stories. We still joke about the horse that's in that game. There's a anybody that's played Clank Legacy, the the is it called the nearly dead horse or the definitely not dead horse, something like that. So yeah, there's some pretty funny writing in there. But yeah, comedies are. Comedy's a funny one. I think it can come through in narrative, but it can also really backfire in narrative. And I think, but then I also think about on the flip side of that, just a game like Time's Up, or I've never played Time's Up, but we just play a parlor version of it called the Hat Game, where everybody just writes the clues and chucks them in a hat, and that you just end up in creases. Just the hilarity of people's mistakes or misheard things, or the memes that are created within that group as you play it. I think, yeah, that for me is where comedy within games really it's exciting and interesting when it's coming from the players. Is there a game that you can think of that you found particularly funny or you've really laughed at just because of either the writing or the social side of things?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking about when you were talking and, you know, well, not obviously, but I think most of the games that are going to fit into this category would probably be in either the storytelling from the narrative or probably be in more of a party game.
Mm, mm.
So a couple, I mean, yeah, you mentioned Time's Up as a good one, but I think a couple of games that have been funny. I was like looking, it's not on the shelf right now. It was actually in a bag. But Monstrosity, have you played
Hmm.
that one?
No, I know about it, I think, but go on, you talk about it because no, I haven't played it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a game where one person sees the suspect monster. They get 20 seconds to take a look at the card, and then they have 2 minutes to relay the details of the card, what they can't look at anymore. So they see it for 20 seconds and then they put it down, and then from memory they have to try to like relay what it looks like to all these other people who are then drawing it. And um, the anybody who is like trying to draw, they can ask questions. And I actually had Eric Slauson, the designer of the game, on, and he went through like a really good breakdown of all these like different reveals and all these different like abilities. So you don't even have to be like a great artist. You could be like you could score points or do well by being a good, having like a good memory and trying to come up with the details or come up with good
Hmm.
questions or just like, really like listen to what it is that the person's trying to describe. And I don't know, it's just like a really fascinating design because there's a good amount of, like commentary in there too about like people's memories and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a great combo with him to check out. But I
Oh,
think,
that's gone high onto my list then. I'm gonna have to check that out. That sounds good.
yeah, it's a fun one, and it has a lot of funny moments, especially once you get these different reveals and you see some people's drawings and you're like, what were you drawing? And then you see like what the card was that the person had looked at. It's like, wait, what card were you looking at that you gave us this description for? I don't know. I feel like that one. I mean, it is in that a party game space, but it's created a lot of
Hmm.
laughs for sure. So
Hmm.
that one sticks out to me quite a bit.
All right, let's do a roll again. That was a little
Oh,
quicker. I
a little.
tightened up
We're,
there.
we're getting there. Clank Legacy. I really need to start playing the Clank games because that one sounds fun. I have one of the Clanks. I think
Yeah,
I've
I hadn't played Clank before playing Clank Legacy, but yeah, we had a lot of fun out of it. We're tempted to do the new one, but we've all got kids since playing playing Clank Legacy the first time, so it's like, let's shelve that for a few
I was
years
gonna
at
say
least.
you played the first one and then like had different legacy elements in your own life that have
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. We opened a, we've all recently unpacked a box which included a baby inside of it, and now we're into the next campaign.
Well, I hope you're all able to find time for Clink Legacy 2 sometime, or 3 at that point in time, who knows.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, we are on number 1, application of an ability.
All right. Well, I maybe I'll start by just unpacking this because sometimes it can be like what is that application of ability? What does that mean? Um, so I think the definition of this is that it's a game where you apply um, any skill that you have in your life, and it could be do you have some knowledge of mathematical reasoning? It could be that you have some, trivia, a particular field of trivia, or you're a really good drawer, like you were just talking about monstrosity, or it's where you get to use the skills and knowledges that you have within the game, and that is a deep well of satisfaction, and it's also really, really broad. But often when we play a game, we don't realize how much of our own abilities and skills we're using and and gaining a lot of feedback on that because it's direct feedback a game gives you on it, and you see the outcomes of your abilities and skills, and when those things go successfully, you get a kick out of it. So that's sort of this one, what this one groups, I think. And so oh yeah, well, the one that comes to mind for me is Werewolf, because of my drama background, because I studied theatre, and I I am a drama teacher now, and I use Werewolf a lot within my classroom to teach kind of bluffing and keeping a poker face, managing your nervous energy, building building tension and creating atmosphere and all those things. And I get to sort of ham it up a little bit, and tell. I'm always the moderator, so I'm telling the story and using a lot of my drama skills to model for the students. Yeah, some of those skills and abilities and knowledge is related to drama. So it's one that I enjoy applying my own abilities within that, I think.
Hmm.
And do you have you played Werewolf? And is it because I know you're a teacher, so is it something do you use in your classroom at all? Or
I haven't used any sort of like social deduction game in the classroom. I
I
think the
suppose in an English you're an English teacher, right? High school
mhm.
English teacher. You it's probably be a bit more of a shoe in to use it directly to teach, but
Yeah.
um
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I typically if anything, and not unfortunately I do I always want to see if I can like tie in more games, but the most recent thing that I did that actually worked pretty well, which is not really an application of an ability. It's not the same as like werewolf, which I think is an interesting answer too, because you know, within acting, it makes a lot of sense, especially if that's what the students want to be doing. But it
Mm,
also, this idea of, lying does make people uncomfortable. So
mm.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
within that context, it works well, and it's an interesting exploration. But yeah, and I can't really think of like a good example based on well, just this category or the one that you have, but the most recent game I played is I kind of adapted the word game Just One because, well,
Hmm.
we got done reading uh Macbeth, the play, and we did different
Hmm.
activities with Macbeth. So sometimes I'll take, themes or the names of characters and then just make those be the words that the guessers have to get from like Just One. So that was pretty fun.
I think that absolutely applies. I mean, it's like I said, it's not just an application of an ability, but I think application of knowledge, application of yeah, wisdom, if that is even possible, kind of thing. But yeah, if you that's probably deeply satisfying for the students to be able to play a game and to be able to use the knowledge that they've just gained from reading and digging into Macbeth, and do that in a way that's fun, but also it's something in a safe environment that gives them feedback on that knowledge, and rewards them for having that knowledge, and not in a rewarding way that's going to be a sit in an exam that's going to cost them the rest of their lives or something. Maybe it's yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, I think, yeah, well, thanks for justifying my non-answer answer a bit more, but yeah, I see it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, from application of an ability to Being silly. Number three.
Oh man. Oh, yeah, I know one. Wait, let me get the title right. So this is one of Bez Shahari's games. Wait a second. It is a game about making about no, a game about cute. Wait, she has such fantastic titles. A game about cute comical creatures. A game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises. That's the title of the game.
Huh.
Um, all of her games are with these fantastically long, very descriptive titles, and that does tell you what the game is. It is a game about cute comical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes noises, which is a very, very silly game where you're invited to be silly. So it's all these beautiful, cartoony. Actually reminds me a little bit of Monstrosity that you were talking about.
Yeah.
But you know, each card is a monster, and they are all with their mouth open, or kind of they all look like they're making sounds. They all look like they're roaring or tooting or sneering or something like that. And they're kind of lined up in a um in a suspects gallery. One player knows which one or picks one of them that they're going to try to uh, communicate to everybody. But they do it through making a noise. So they just go, but of course the animals have some features that are similar, and they have two or three animals in the lineup may look like they've got the same emotional experience going on. Some of them have two or three mouths. Some of them have the same kind of, I don't know, eyes that open or whatever it might be. So you have to be very, very particular about the sound that you make. And so, we've played this in a bar or something, and I've played it in a bar before, and it's a game that anybody who's passing by and looking at you is thinking, what on earth are they doing? Like just hearing how everybody's really deeply in thought or conversation about someone who's just made a or whatever it might be, and then everybody thinks about it really deeply. It's fantastic. It's such a silly game, and um, so easy to jump on board with and play. I love it.
That that's great. I can't say that I've heard of this one previously, but the premise sounds very interesting, and it also, yeah, like you said, the images of the cards that you're seeing are very like specific, and yeah, that looks perfect. I
It's fun. And it's just a little deck of cards. It's perfect. You can pack it in the bag, and it's really disarming as long as people. I think this is another interesting form of fun where buy-in is really important with this. You've got to make sure the group are up for it. Otherwise, they're not gonna jive with that experience at all. And so yeah, tread with caution, perhaps. Or make sure get you get buy-in from everybody before you try playing it. But if you do have a group of people who are willing to be silly and do it like that, it works really well. And I see the link that you've posted just is the other version of the game, which was
oh,
worth mentioning.
the other
It's good. No,
version. Oh my goodness, I posted
there's
the wrong
just
one.
no, it's good because this they're exactly the same, just with different monsters. But a
Oh,
game
okay.
about wee whimsical creatures and trying to identify them after someone makes a noise is a standalone sequel to a
Oh,
game about cute
cute.
comical
Okay.
creatures and
Yeah.
trying to identify them. I love
Here.
that.
I will fix the name and the link. I got it. I got it all set up much better. All right. So there are two, and they're working at the same thing.
Yeah, they're compatible. Yeah, I think
Good.
one's colored and one is black and white drawings, but they're essentially the same thing, and you can mix and match. And
Very cool.
I think you can actually put them together to play with 12 players. I think they play six, like something like two to six each. And if you merge them together, you can play 12 players, which would be hilarious. Just seeing that many people taking it very seriously, the noise that you're about to make.
I think you like bring up a good point. You definitely have to consider buy-in, and you definitely have to think about who it is that you're playing with. But I also think that, you know, well, I mean, you don't want to create a scenario where somebody's going to be uncomfortable doing anything in any capacity. I mean,
Mm, mm,
that's just going to turn people away from wanting to play a game or potentially even games in general. But I guess the one flip side that I think that I've noticed, and I'm not like a game pusher. Like I love playing games, but if I know that people aren't really interested, I'm not gonna like that's not going to
mm,
be my
mm.
angle, right?
Yeah,
But
sure.
I do think that if people are interested in playing games, m more often than not, maybe this is a bad generalization on my part, there people are willing to buy into to being silly or to doing something that they didn't necessarily think that they knew that they wanted to do ahead of time, if that
Mm,
makes
mm,
sense. But
mm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I mean, I think games are that wonderful catch-all that in a lot of ways that they do well because it's play because they are inherently play. They they allow us to tap back into that. Some people perhaps are ready to go. Some people are, already open to playing and comfortable playing. Some people maybe need a little bit more time, a little bit more encouragement. Um, but all of these different forms of fun are also within that big group of play. And I think it's, yeah, that and sports and which of course are games, there's that space for play. And I think it's why it's seen continues to see growth because an industry because we need it. We need it within our lives, and it's something. It gives us space to be silly because how you may be comfortable being silly in the office with your colleagues or something, but some people need that environment and that reason to do it, and that's all they need actually. Mm.
Hmm. Yeah, I think like one game. I mean, I kind of like look over if that's not even, my collection's all spread all over the place. So if you see me looking, it's not me being distracted. It's me like thinking about what you're saying. Is the game Don't Get Got? Do you know that one?
Ish.
Okay.
It's like the it's a meta game, isn't it?
Yes, it is a meta game. And
Yeah.
it could be a meta game, it could be just something that you like introduce for a weekend or for a night or whatever it is that you like have set up to
Right.
and you're trying to like, trick people into doing something
Uh-huh.
or like, get them to like bring up the or tell you the plot of the movie Inception or something like that,
Yeah, yeah.
It's just
And
like
have you played it at you've done like a weekend where you've
yeah,
cracked it
yeah,
out?
I've probably played it like at least four or five times, and with a variety of groups. Like like people or young adults that I've like like coached, and you're going up
Hmm.
to state for track and field or something like that. And it's like a group that's not necessarily quote unquote game players, but they love it. Like everybody loves it.
Yeah. Oh God, I'd love to play it. I would absolutely love it. Um, when I used to work in summer camps in America, in my kind of my 20s, I did a few years, and every summer there'd be about a week when we'd play a game called Assassins,
Mm, hmm.
where everybody gets given a target. Everybody that's playing gets given a target, and you've got to get a um, basically like a shot glass worth of water onto your target to eliminate them without that it has to be within the rules that it can only be you and the target that sees it. Um, no other observers can see it. And if they do, then the kind of assassinations like terminated, but they're still your target, which makes it even harder to
Oh.
then get them because they now know you are their kind of you that you're hunting them and stuff. And then once you eliminate them, you get given their target, and it kind of gradually whittles down until there's two people left, both trying to eliminate each other without anybody else seeing and without the other person preventing it from happening. And it couldn't be under closed doors, it had to be outside, so you couldn't be under a roof. So we would end up in all these shenanigans and people crawling under into crawl spaces under cabins and waiting in a tree for 3 hours in the early morning and all of these things. So I would probably take it far too seriously, I would imagine, but I would love it. Yeah.
That's good. I think all of those are definitely examples of being silly, and the initial one that you brought up about making random noises is literally perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, back to the tower. Let's see if we got a new one here. Ooh, okay. So I got to squint a little bit. We're on 16, so relaxation, immersion, or submission, or the
Ooh,
category of all of them, not or.
gosh, that's a hard one. Hmm. I think, yeah. I started trying to think about a multiplayer game that kind of satisfies that fun for
Hmm.
me, and I don't know if I've really been immersed that much in a or relaxed or kind of felt submission with a multiplayer game, not least what I can remember, but solo games is then what I thought about. And I think about some of my favorite solo games like Onirim, is a great one for relaxation for me, that it's just something shuffling a deck and playing out cards in a very kind of peaceful, um, it's quite repetitive, but in a really nice, relaxing way. Um, do you know about the deck tet? Have you ever come across the deck tet?
I I feel like I just heard about the deck tet from the uh Space Cast podcast because
Oh, right,
Dan
yeah.
Dan Thoreau had the designer of Pax Illuminaten on, and here I'll type this in so I can get the name. And that designer was Oliver Kiley, and I feel like Oliver mentioned being inspired by the deck tet in the creation of
Fascinating.
Pax Illuminaten.
Oh, okay, yeah,
So that
I
was
see
like
that in my feed.
the only time that I'd heard of it. So,
Yeah, it's sort of gone under the radar. It came out a few years ago. Basically, what it is for anyone that doesn't know, it's just a card system. It's a deck of cards,
hmm
a card system for playing games with. But it's kind of came out with a book of games that are specific to that deck, and the deck has a couple of unique hooks about it. Every card has, or certain cards have multiple suits on the card. So some cards have just one suit, one of the six suits, but some cards have two or three suits on the card.
hmm
So a card can kind of exist within multiple suits, which is really interesting for yeah, trick taking games or any games that kind of rely on suit play. Um, but also the card has certain cards are in they all have a piece of art on them, and some of them are personages, some of them are locations, and some of them are events. So it's also a really interesting game for building storytelling games or games that have a narrative built into them, but also then while still being kind of in a traditional deck of cards in a way. And the game that I've played the most of that is actually a fan-made game that is a riff on the Friedman Freeze game Friday. So there is a fan-made version of that called Thursday, that you can play with the deck tech. And then I think somebody else riffed on that with a game called Tinker, Sailor, Soldier, Spy, which is it's just this tiny little, like, it's a narrative, it's a real like adventure game where you start out with a tinker, a sailor, a soldier, and a spy. Those are your kind of like beginning team, and that's your deck. And you gradually go through trying to overcome events or locations to build your deck to then kind of do this final journey at the end where you go from it's something like you have to make it all the way to the sea. And I've been on these, like, it's so hard to describe, but I've been on these epic adventures with a deck of like whatever it is, 50 cards, just by like it just evokes a beautiful narrative if you let it. If you kind of just go, okay, well, what's the spy? Why is the spy overcoming the castle? Well, and if you can imagine that story as you go along, um, and if because it's a solo game, you can take as long as you want playing it and thinking of those little narrative beats. And then if you overcome the castle, well, then the spy now has people in the castle that are working for it, and the castle gets added into your deck. And later on, then when you try to go on the adventure, when the castle comes up, you know you're calling on the people that you've recruited in the castle, and it's them that are helping you overcome the next kind of part of the adventure. And because the suits in the deck and the it's another beautiful part of it, like the suits are things like leaves, sun, moon. Um, there's like a snake in there. The image is in the deck. If the suit is, let's say, leaf and moon, then the card's image is a location. Maybe the location would be the forest at night. It matches the suit in a way, and that if there's yeah, if it's the water, then there will be water in the image somehow. If it's a water suit, it will be water. There'll be a watermill or something like that. So as you go through, the narrative connections just unfold and in this really organic way. And I find that really relaxing and actually quite immersive, like I say, for such a small form factor. So yeah, it's a fantastic tool for also for designers to play around. It's something that I believe just many more people should own and know about it. It's a fantastic little deck of cards. The deck tet. The
Yeah.
PD Magnuson is the designer, I think.
Okay. I'll link. Well, basically, well, not like a huge
Or
spoiler.
PD Magnus.
My
Sorry, PD Magnus.
intent with the form was to well share the form. Well, I said that already, to share the form in the show notes. So, well, so I don't have to like have super extensive show notes, kind of highlighting all these awesome games that you've brought up. But if like anybody wants to like look at them, then they can just go to this document and then just click on like the Board Game Geek page and see the designers and artists and everything and kind of have like
Great. Oh, that's
that
great.
credit. I know, look at that. But it's like I'm linking the deck tet in this as well. So those two games you mentioned though, just for clarification, Thursday and then the Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, if that was the name of it.
Hmm.
Um, those are both solo games. Because I
They're
know that.
both solo
Okay,
games.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, because I know that Friday is, and you said that Thursday was a fan-made kind of variant on that, but they're both solo games.
Hmm.
Hmm. I'm trying to think. Would you feel as if then you brought it up before, and I haven't played it, so I can't say if it would work here. But you mentioned Dorfromantik as
Mm.
as a co-op game. Do you feel like that one could fit into this as a not competitive, but as like a co-op experience, like multiplayer
Yeah,
experience?
I think that's what people, from what I've heard of the game, that's how people describe it. That it is this just is well, I've heard it described as quite relaxing. That you're just kind of you're working on your objectives, and but then I've also heard it described as still having quite a lot of tension
Mm,
because you self-impose your own goals, and in a way, if you are a person who's very goal-driven and you want to impose your own goals quite stringently on yourself then in a way you can the sky's your limit in your goals within that game. So I would imagine for most people it's relaxation. For some people, maybe it can be still quite a like, oh, I've got to get this done because I've got my own personal goal. But um, yeah, it's definitely one that I want to try for that reason.
nice. Yeah, and I think, and you mentioned it kind of at the top of rolling this number, but I'm curious to like what this might look like or how it could exist in a multiplayer game that that isn't cooperative. I mean, I think it's definitely a possibility. I would have to like kind of jog my memory of of examples of games that I've played to see how this is really fit. So I mean, I think immersion could definitely work, but I feel like thinking about immersion combined with relaxation could make it a little bit trickier. If
Yeah, 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 and maybe there's an argument to be made that immersion would should be a separate category to this. That perhaps relaxation and submission are, and yeah, different from immersion because immersion can be immersion in a horror. You could be immersed in a horror, which is absolutely not a relaxing thing. Um, I can't. I'm not entirely sure why I grouped them together, but perhaps just because I wanted a nice clean number of 20, which I've now broken. It's now 22. So I guess it could come out and become 23.
Who knows? I'm not trying to like make you make more numbers. I was just reflecting. Oh,
Yeah,
well, speaking of numbers here, well, I'll just one thing. So we've got one, two, four, six, wait, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven. We only have seven numbers. If I'm being honest with us at this moment in time, I think we should chop our list in half for now. Like
sure, sure.
we'll do a few more, but that's good news. It means that we can we don't have to be surprised by these numbers, but when we talk in the future, because I definitely will want to, because this is going to be the incomplete
Yeah.
episode, quote unquote.
Okay.
And I want to talk about your game too a little bit in relation to this as well. So I don't want to
Sure.
like spend like 4 hours talking about
Yeah. I
category.
bet that would be a long podcast.
But
We could go, I reckon we could go 10
oh,
if we really put our minds to it. So
oh, I know. I feel like, as is, we're taking our time, but we're still going quick and we're not super far. So let's do a few more
yeah,
and we can chat about I had a question related to the list and Kelp for sure and other ways that you're thinking about this in your design process. And then if we want to maybe talk about like one of the special stars for now, we can before getting to like some wrap up thoughts. But let's do a few more. We're doing well, but we're
Oh,
not going to get like
I misunderstood the stars. I thought I was chucking in stars when I was like
oh
in the moment
when we're in.
saying, so we're saying we're deep diving on them now.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, I get. Okay, I mean, that's a me thing. I probably 100% described that wrong. But no, we definitely did deep dive those more when we were talking about them. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so
so
we're just like
I'm
used.
pretty happy. I think we're covered with that with Discovery, at least for now.
Okay. Okay, at least
Yeah,
for now.
Discovery
Because
winning.
well, the way you brought it up too, I think like here, I'll share my secrets on Discovery before going to the next one. I think you brought up Seventh Continent and you brought up some other games, and I think it's interesting. I mean, well, Discovery within like a game system, Discovery within like the type of game. It could be a map book. You brought up Near and Far, but the other bigger Ryan Lockett game is like even more
Oh
discovery.
yeah, Sleeping
Yeah,
Gods.
Sleeping Gods and
Hmm.
going through the storybooks and with Seven Continent and other games like that that have huge deck boxes where the cards make up the map and then that discovery is intriguing as well. But I think like when you mention that idea of like replayability, there's there's also like the sense of like the core loop within those games that makes you want to continue with the discovery because I feel like I'm not those games in particular, but I just like when I think about those types of games, I think it's challenging to come up with like a mechanical game loop that makes you want to keep going
Yeah.
in those games. And again,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not those ones in particular, but I've just kind of thought about it because if the experience is going to be, 50 hours, the balance of the discovery of the world and, the mechanisms
Yeah.
that are linked to it. I don't know. It's just like an interesting thought. So that's like the only thing that was on my
Yeah.
brain.
I it's something I've been thinking about because I've been thinking about Discovery quite a bit recently because I'm working on an expansion to Kelp and the publisher had said when we were kind of brainstorming together like what it could be that it would be cool to have an element of discovery in the game. And so I've been unpacking like, well, what does that mean? What do you because I think there's with discovery, like you say, there can be some kind of mechanical hook. There's perhaps it's a discovery of strategy, right? That's one element of discovery, but I don't think that's what really what when people talk about the discovery as an element of fun, they're meaning, like you say, something, the content, discovering the world, discovering the people, discovering the events. And that really is, you need kind of more and more content. Why Sleeping Gods is this big game with a lot of content in there. It's because once you've discovered some of it, and unless you come back to it far in the future and you've forgotten it, you've discovered it, and so it needs a lot of content there. The other kind of the flip side of that is that I wanted moments of discovery. And really what Kelp actually is, a big part of Kelp is hidden information and revealing hidden information. And so it's a much more it's a much more scaled down version of discovery in that it exists within the game system. It's discovery between players, it's discovery of hidden information. And um kind of the DNA of Kelp is Android Netrunner, my love of Android Netrunner, the game, and in that it's this a lot of tension designed around flipping a card, placing a bet on what that card is going to be, and it's either going to be lucrative for you or it's going to be deadly for you, and stakes are really high. So the discovery moment is the reveal, the flip, and or the flop, and so yeah, when I think about Discovery, I think about it in those two big kind of groups in a way, content or a flip.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, like I said, okay, well, I'm glad you feel content with our star deep dive into those, but yeah, I was just thinking about it. It's very, again, like these elements, they could mean so many different things within like
Yeah.
each category and the way that they interact with the other ones. Uh
Hmm.
yeah, again,
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah,
the
this
key.
there could be books written about this thing. There probably are.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try to knock out a few more before a couple kelp specific, well, kelp and you designing specific questions, and we'll take a look. So we are on sensation. So we're got a
Mm,
few on this document that are right next to each
okay.
other and are going to be filled in.
So sensation, I guess, for me is like the haptics, the touch of the game, and it's not only the kind of feel of the components, but it's also the what you are doing with the components with your hands or your body during the game as well. So it's this kind of a sense of action and things, and moving things around or collecting them or whatever it might be, rolling dice, touching things. So what is a game that jumps to mind for sensation for me? Oh man. Oh, that's tough. Do you have something in mind that jumps to you?
Well, I
To
think
you?
I think a fun one. I mean, you mentioned, feel of things, and my mind jumps to dexterity, kind of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
initially. And again,
Yep.
I don't think it's limited to dexterity. And one
Oh
of
no.
I like a lot of dexterity games, but um, I'll give two because I play a lot of dexterity games. So one of them that's kind of funny is the little game Tinder Blocks,
Mm-hmm.
where you're just stacking with the tweezers, and the board game podcast So Very Wrong About Games, they like talking about that game because the tweezers are kind of, they're not great, and that's almost like a part of the the
Right,
game is
right,
just
right.
like manipulating these tweezers to try to grab the pieces, and if you like grab the wooden block wrong, it just like shoots across the table or whatever. So
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's kind of funny. And then the game Hamster Roll. I'm not sure if you're
Right.
that
Yeah, I
one.
do. I know it. Yeah, the
Yeah,
big ring, right,
the
where you're
big ring.
stacking.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So
Um, and what are the pieces like in Hamster Roll? They wooden, kind of wooden shaped
yes.
pieces.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
wood pieces.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're getting feedback, aren't you, from that roll, that wheel, right? You play something on, you're getting immediate feedback as it kind of what I imagine it wobbles
Yes.
underneath your touch and stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, Actually, something came to mind, which is the complete opposite end of them in a way that those are quite tense,
Yeah.
tense, thrilling games. They also fit into like failing games,
Yes. Yes,
where
they do.
the fail is the fun. But I have a, I have got like the collector's edition, which is a fancy name for what it really is, but of Quirkle.
Oh,
Do you know Quirkle, the tile laying game?
definitely know it. I have not played that one though.
It's Quirkle's. Oh man, Quirkle's so good for what it is. I play it with my parents, and it's basically Scrabble without words. That's how I would describe it. It's Scrabble where you don't have to make words; you're just making patterns. But it comes this version I have of these chunky urea or Bakelite, whatever they are, pieces. Um, mine's the pieces were all black with really kind of nice embossed colors on them. They're heavy. We need to, it has a big bag of them that you have to, like we have to put, because they have a young kid at home. If we need to shake up the bag, we have to put like a tea towel, a little towel under the table on the table because the bag is so heavy that it will make a really loud clunk when you kind of put it down or if you're shaking it. Which is there's not many games that you have to actually like sort of deaden the table, soften the table because they're so loud while you play. Um, but I just love the satisfying, like you stack them up and then you stack them up in front of you so the other players can't see, and you pick one up and set it down. There's something so rewarding in that. Um, it's probably another reason Kelp, my game, which has these chunky mahjong tiles. The I love the haptics of manipulating them. Particularly that there's something really satisfying about laying it from a standing position to a flat position. I don't know. 10, 15 years ago, I would have thought, you'd have asked me, like, will you take satisfaction from laying a mahjong tile down? I would have thought you were crazy. But right now, I can't, it's so satisfying.
It it is, and well, now that you're bringing up these non dexterity examples, I was just thinking too. Oh, another game that's right behind me, uh, Big Top. I don't know if you're familiar with Big Top at all.
No. Mm-mm.
So it is a an auction bidding game, and it
Mm.
is by I want to say it's a Taiki Shinzawa game. So you mentioned trick, yeah, it is a Taiki
Mm-hmm.
Shinzawa game. Uh, Taiki makes a ton of you know really kind of experimental trick takers and climber shedders, but this is a an auction game,
Mm.
and you're bidding just currency, these coins, and I have the deluxe little all play coins, and people could argue if coins are necessary or not, but I think in the instance of this game, you have your little player shield because you don't want people to know how much money you have. You're hiding it,
Mm.
but you can kind of play with your money in a way that's almost like borderline bluffing, or you can kind of give a tell as to how much money you may or may not have based on like the way your money feels and sounds,
All
how
right.
you
Yeah, yeah.
manipulate it. So I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
interesting too.
Yeah, it reminds me, somebody commented, was it on Blue Sky or something, that we were talking about sensation recently, and how it makes sense that metal coins, the fact that they're metal, if they're heavier, or heavier poker chips, subconsciously play into loss aversion. That if you are kind of they're more satisfying to add to your collection and more painful when you have to give them away or spend them or lose them than a cardboard chip would be. And that's a way that kind of, and especially thinking about design, like when you really start to go deep and thinking about design, like the choices that you make in terms of components can deeply impact satisfaction or fun or things like loss aversion, things like bluffing, Um, yeah, that's really interesting.
Hmm. I like that. Again, yeah, this the whole conversation and just like the examples you've brought up and kind of not deep diving all of them, but mini deep diving them all at the very least has been keeps like bringing new examples to my mind.
I could talk about this all day. I absolutely could. This is my most interesting topic. I think that I love thinking about. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we got a couple more, and then hopefully, like I said, maybe continuing this at some. Oh my gosh, look at this. The die is listening though. So we went from sensation, in which we talked about some dexterity games, to failing and stupid games, which coincidentally was brought up in
Yeah, yeah.
in that last topic. So
Yeah. Yeah, so these are games where the fun is because one person or lots of people fail, and that is the kind of usually the climax of the game. And Jenga being the kind of most probably the most famous version they saw, or Twister. Um, and is there one failing? Oh, I can think of one that's really it's got a great element of failing in it. Um, did you ever play Cheating Moth?
oh, heard of it, have not played Cheating Moth.
It's in the same line as Cockroach Poker, which is the most probably the most famous, at least the most famous that I know of within that line of games. I can't remember the publisher, but yeah, Cheating Moth or Muggle Moth, something like that in the German, is a game where you are obliged to cheat to win. And so basically it's a shedding game where you've got to get rid of your hand of cards, but and you're kind of playing them to the central deck. Certain cards trigger like mini games, but there is a card within the deck in this case the moth that cannot be played legally to the deck. So you have to get rid of it from your hand in any way possible, by sliding it up your sleeve, tucking it under another card as you play it, just going whole hog and throwing it from the table over players' heads. But the hook of the game is that um, one player is the guard. So the guard each round, well, changes. If the guard catches you cheating, you become the new guard during midway through the round. So the guard is kind of always changing. So all the other players are trying to get rid of their moths um, without the guard catching you. And so the moments of failing when, people try to pull off some audacious cheat to get rid of a moth, like I mean, I've seen people like, really just the guard is looking at them and they throw the card or they do it in such a way that they can pull it off. That's hilarious after the fact because you can't laugh you're not allowed to snitch on the people as they cheat if you're players. So it's hilarious if they pull it off. That's funny, but it's even more funny if they fail, and they get caught doing something ridiculous trying to cheat. Yeah, it's a good one.
That's good. Yeah, I've definitely. I'm trying to think which. Yeah, I've watched and listened to a lot of people talking about board games, and I've heard some fun stories about Cheating Moth, but I have not
Yeah,
played that.
it's really good. Actually, that was my just as a tangent. I made a custom version of it. I loved it so much, and then designed a bunch of kind of mini mini expansions to it that I have, but we play with some fun ones. And so like other ways of there's a few other kind of ways of cheating that I've built into the game, and one of them is ties back to what's that meta game called? Sorry, Don't Get
Yeah,
Got.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's this one card in my version where during the game you've got to steal in order to play the card, you have to steal something from another player, like a possession from them, like their drink or their coat or something. So layering on another layer of kind of cheating, a meta version of cheating within the game. And then if you were able to steal that and keep it for a full round of cards, a full turn, then you announce it and you can play your card and get rid of it. But
Oh, nice.
yeah, I love it.
Oh, that is funny. How many little cards or mini expansions did you make for your Cheating Moth deck?
Um, well. in Cheating Moth, there are, in addition to the moth, I think there are
Huh?
four kind of basic cards. So I have an entirely different set of them. So I have at least four. So I can switch out the four mini games with four other mini games. They're basically like one of them is like if when you play the card, everyone has to slap the table and the person on top of the pile is gets a penalty and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I've switched out some of those mini games and and then I think like I added in this yeah this meta stealing card and then I've expanded the game. The game only plays 5 players, but with my mini expansions I can play bigger. But then you need more guards. So I have a temporary guard that appears, it kind of appears during the game and becomes a temporary guard for a while until they catch someone and then they let go of it and they go back to one guard and stuff like that. So I kind of had to make it function a little bit more. Um, yeah, it's been a while. It was one of those projects that I did like must have been 6 or 7 years ago now when I kind of did all that tinkering. So and I haven't played it with my mini expansions for a while. I'd be curious to see how they stack up with a few
Yeah,
more years experience under my belt now.
that is perfect. Well, for now, we are having the last die roll. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Ooh, let's see. We haven't, okay, I say this now and I know that it's gonna like double up, but I haven't actually like bumped down from a number. Like we haven't re-rolled the
Uh-huh.
number. They've all been unique numbers. Like I haven't gone from like the next to the next and
Oh, let's see how well this die has been listening. Has it listened to you?
it did. 15 power.
Ooh, it's a nice one. It's a new one. Um, oh, power. Oh man. I did some thinking about power on Blue Sky. It was one of the posts that I went a little bit deeper on recently. Like, and I think power, the thrill of power is actually often knowing that you know something or have something, but not using it yet, like waiting to use it. Um, and and then of course seeing the consequences of it, but there's something really exciting about the build up of having something that others don't.
Hmm.
So what's yeah, I mean I love games with hidden information. So anytime that you know something other players don't is thrown Werewolf, Android Netrunner, these games that I've talked about already fit into that because of that. Um,
Well, sorry, I don't want to
Go on,
cut
no,
you.
jump in.
Have you played Blood on the Clock Tower? Because that one feels like it could be a mixture due to all of the unique powers that it has in conjunction with
Yeah,
the
I haven't. No, I would love
oh,
to.
okay.
It's one of those things that like in my current period of my life with family and stuff,
Hmm.
getting a such a big group together. A friend of mine owns it and he's desperate to get it played, but
Okay. Oh,
yeah.
yeah, the only reason I bring it up is because just that, that hidden information mixed with
Mm,
some a good variety of player powers, I think makes
hmm.
that one interesting. But okay, sorry, I didn't. I was
No,
just
not at
curious.
all. No, I would love to play that. I mean, I don't know if I can think of anything better at the moment. I of like where you really have power. Hmm. I mean, ghost stories is one that like I don't know why that comes to mind. I haven't played it in years, but ghost stories jumps to mind as being I like feeling the power of the ghosts is sort of reversed that they're really powerful. Sometimes there's some ghosts come out that you think, how are we going to beat this ghost? Like it, especially when you get towards the boss at the end, it just seems so powerful, and yet that's the beauty of that game is that you have built up power by that point if you've played the game well, and so you feel so powerful by the end because you if you win because you've overcome massive odds. It feels like yeah
Nice. Yeah, I haven't. This is nice because I feel like yeah, a lot of the games that you've brought up are ones that I haven't played, and some of the ones that I've brought up are ones that you haven't played too. But
yeah
you got a
absolutely yeah
nice cross section. Power. That
yeah
how I guess when you're thinking about so yeah, you brought up a few things. You brought up like power of uh, information and knowing things that other players might not know, or just having access to that information. The example you picked with ghost stories is the power from, like the AI or the enemy that you're going up against.
Mm,
How about, I'm just curious. I actually don't really play a ton of the the kind of quote unquote Euro games that grant players unique powers that where they'll be described as all of
mm,
them are
hmm.
broken, but you all have like you each have your own.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh, I don't
Well,
know.
I'm immediately struck by probably my favorite game at the moment. I don't know why I didn't think of this, but Cosmic Encounter.
Oh,
I think
okay.
Cosmic Encounter is it's like head to head, neck and neck with Android Netrunner, my favorite game. But um, Cosmic is absolutely that. It's these completely broken powers, and it does it in such a beautiful way as well, where it your power is only active when you reveal it. And
Hmm.
so, unless it's one that, well, there's certain ones that require setup at the beginning of the game, so you are forced to reveal that immediately. But all the others, you start with your power card face down, and sometimes you'll go the entire game without revealing it, and manage to win just because the threat of revealing it is is enough. Sometimes people wonder what it is and suspect what it might be, why you're still holding it back, and we just have a little in my group that plays it. We have this when you reveal it, you also have to read the flavor text at the bottom, which kind of introduces your alien species on the universal stage, and they're these kind of um, pretty like cheesy bits of writing and stuff, but we do it in such a way that is like, do not laugh at my alien race. That would be my alien species. Do not laugh at my alien species. I'm going to read this very seriously, and you're going to take me very seriously, even though I'm a cute, cuddly cat called the loser or something. But then the power behind it is like everybody goes like, you can do what? No way. That's crazy. That's so powerful. And then another person reveals, and you're like, what? So yeah, that's why I love it because it's so wonky and funny, and yet at the same time knows exactly what it's doing with giving you a feeling of power. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, yeah, you hit. I mean, in general, there's billions, well, not billions. There's so many games I haven't played, but you're hitting on another one that I haven't. So the only thing, it doesn't even seem analogous to me, but a game that has an interesting escalation of power and, maybe some of that knowledge of like the cards you have and others don't have, and there's I think one card of each era that isn't available in it, but Innovation.
Hmm.
Have you played
Oh yeah,
Innovation?
yeah.
I
Yeah,
think,
once or twice. Yeah, I need to
yeah.
get back to it, but
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. I've played that one so many times, but in that one, once you get into those higher ages, some of
Mm.
those cards are so wild, and you have to balance so many other things to the point where you might not even get to those like higher age cards. Like the game could be over way before then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
you could see your opponent just adding, boatloads of cards to their hands. Like, do they have the card that they're going to play it, and then they can score all the cards from their hand? And and in this case, it's not necessarily the reveal of an alien race or character that you have, but it's just like, which cards are in the deck still, which cards do I have, which cards might they have, and and as you do climb higher, just the ability to, destroy, especially in the new version, destroy achievements or get rid of like an
Ah,
entire
yeah.
deck or things like that. I don't know. It's funny. I like
Yeah,
it.
Carl Chudyk is a master of that. I mean, Glory to Rome is one of my favorites. I played that a lot more than Innovation. Yeah, just a master of the power curve. And once you get rolling in some of these games, like there's no stopping you, and it's such a thrill. You can get completely off the rails with just some crazy deck. But then I've seen I've seen games where I've I played a game of Glory to Rome where it seemed like I was on this huge power curve, and then another player got on a different power curve, and then completely overtook me, and it was this wow, like how that's even crazier. Like it's yeah, it's so good. I've got to get back to innovation, especially with that new version.
Yes.
It looks so good.
Yeah, it was funny because I mean, I've the basically all of my plays have been, I mean, let's just say all of my plays have been online. So I was playing with like the old deluxe one and then the new version came out and speaking of like mastery and competition and things like that, like I like to try to play to win. I'm not going to get
Mm,
crazy about it, but at this point, my knowledge of the cards, it's always been fine. I've played the game like 60 or 70 times, but I couldn't even tell you what the main differences between the two are. And I know that some of them are like, junking an entire like era of cards or getting rid of achievements is more prominent in this one. But I
hmm
know that some of the individual cards have been tweaked and other things, and it's just funny. Like my brain has shifted to the new version, and yeah, I would recommend the new one. At first, I was like a little hesitant because I'd played so many games of the other one,
Right,
but
right.
now the shift is complete, and
Uh,
I'm into that one. So
well, I think a friend of mine picked it up, so the new version. So I'm gonna have to chase him down and see if we can get a game of it.
yeah, I think yeah, you mentioned the power curve. That's like a really good phrase to uh, denote what Carl Chuddik is doing. Well, but speaking of Carl's and doing, let's transition to help a little bit. And in that conversation, you did bring up some of these, you know, uh, elements of fun or types of fun in relation to your game. Some of the tactility you mentioned, the tiles
Mm,
specifically is one that you liked, and I know that came up a couple other times. But to you having played your game, well, you having played your game a whole bunch,
mm.
which I'm going to give you two or three of these 20 types of fun do you feel that Kelp hits on the most? Like if you're
hmm
going to like synthesize and again, obviously it's more than just a few of them as to why like people are loving your game, but what are the three in your mind that you think it is kind of like
Right.
doing the most?
Well, the first one is a no-brainer for me, and that's and one we didn't talk about actually, which is interesting, which is Thrill of Danger.
Hmm.
Um, I think that is I absolutely designed the game around everything around that core experience of a thrill of danger. And it's the thrill of danger for both sides. It's the so for anybody that doesn't know, Kelp is a game of called Octopus versus Shark. It's about a pajama shark hunting an octopus in a kelp forest. Based on I was inspired by the Netflix documentary My Octopus Teacher, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. And in a nutshell, the you're it's a deeply asymmetric game where the octopus player is playing with these mahjong blocks on which one of them, the octopus, is hidden, and they are upright facing the octopus player, and they're manipulating them. They're using a kind of a deck building game to manipulate these blocks, move them around, keep them hidden, shuffle them up, at a cost of like every time they want to play a card, they have to reveal one of these nine blocks to the shark player, giving away information to gain kind of a chance to play a shell game with these blocks, mix them around, and try to survive. Meanwhile, the shark on the other side is playing a dice pool building game where they're rolling dice, placing them on the board for their effects, which are to move faster, to reveal blocks, and ultimately to attack them. But the octopus player also has some trap blocks that they can put out that affect the shark, and I kind of built it around these trade-offs that both players are playing. So the shark, the trade-off is the shark, in order to gain abilities that allow it to re-roll dice and manipulate its kind of position on the board. The cost of that is that advance they advance closer to death, and to losing the game. And every time they attack and miss, that advances them closer to death as well. So You've got the thrill of danger, which I love, and from the Octopus side is this kind of I like the heart pounding, like, but you've got to keep a poker face because you can't reveal all the information that you know where you're hiding a lot of bluffing and things like that. And then the thrill, hopefully, for the shark is that they are, you know, the stakes are really high. If they don't catch this octopus, it could result in their loss, their death. So, um, it's and like I talked about multiple times, Android Netrunner, this kind of core of that experience is for me the same as in Netrunner. That you are that's a game where you're one player's a corporation, the other player is like a futuristic megacorp, and one player is a hacker trying to break into their systems and steal files. And the corporation has traps and ambushes and all these very dangerous things that can kill the hacker and so or the runner. So I I absolutely love that experience in games. It's like a drug to me. I just want that kind of like that thrill of danger because yeah, talking about real like horror and in a way like real world analogies. I think the same reason we watch horror films, the same reason I like to play games with the thrill of danger is because hopefully in our lives we're not experiencing a lot of that, and it's a really safe environment with which to get a yeah, and that's why it is thrilling because it's a safe environment where we can explore that feeling and sensation, and I for one love it. Yeah. So that's one of them. You said for three, but
I'll give
that's
you
definitely
I'll give you one to three. You can pick a couple more.
okay. I'll just say one more then, I think. Um, so and well, I already talked about Discovery, so that's one that I don't need to come back to, but I talked about Kelp a little bit there with
Mhm.
Discovery, is in the moment of the flip, the moment of the big reveal. And so that's a part of it. And there are a couple of elements else, like the kind of final moment of Kelp is what we call a confrontation, where it's this rock paper scissors like mechanism where each player has well the octopus has three options of escape and the shark has three counters to counter those escape strategies, and each of the cards has a different effect that the octopus can employ, which will be better or worse depending on the situation that they're in. And so there's a lot of kind of mind games that take place in that moment. And it's a moment for me of discovery where you each player simultaneously picks one of them, places it face down, and then you simultaneously reveal. And that's usually a big moment where it's this moment of discovery. What did you play, and what's the outcome of the game going to be? And it's can result in some stand-up moments where victory is gained or lost. So that's one, that's two, and then sensation. Well, I talked about that other one, but it's a game where the components, the publisher that made Kelp did just an absolutely stellar job with the production and these from the dice to the moving of the the shark. I really wanted the shark to feel satisfying as you move it around the board. It's this kind of, it looks like it's swimming up on this, it's raised up on a swirl of kelp. So it looks like it's patrolling and swimming above the board, and you can do jaws sound effects as you move it around the board. And then both sides have really satisfying, I believe, really satisfying haptics in the game where the octopus is manipulating these blocks that revealing them and swapping them and shuffling them in a bag. And meanwhile, the shark is rolling and placing dice on the board and moving this miniature around the board in a really hopefully thematic and satisfying way. So I really thought a lot about sensation while designing the game and how I could make that as satisfying as possible for both sides, given that it's an asymmetric game and you're doing different things. Yeah.
That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, between like publishing, production, art, like helps bring all of this to life.
Hmm.
The game is really good, so the game would have been really good no matter what. But it definitely like thinking of those sensation elements and how they tie into, the thrill of danger and the discovery. Like they just, I mean,
Hmm.
and they all tie together like really well. Like when it is that reveal, when you have that discovery, like
Hmm.
and having
Hmm.
these things exist in different ways at different times. Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
Okay. Well, again, we didn't really get super super. Well, we got far. We got like almost halfway through our list.
It
But
just means we
I
can have another session another
I
time, hey?
I know. And that one too. Well, speaking of like discovery for that one, you'll have the game plan ahead of time. You know what's coming. Like there's gonna be no surprise there, but well, unless
Yeah.
unless I pull like a twist on you or something. But nonetheless, I will wrap up with like kind of like the two questions, and I had even more, and I think I'll try to tie one of the thoughts into like the final question. But the final two questions are, asking you about a text. It doesn't have to be a game, something that's
Mhm.
been on your mind, and then also just what you've been working on and things that you want people to look out for from you. But I'll also tie this conversation of fun into that question a little bit. But I know, again, I don't want to keep you here forever, but we'll start with that penultimate one. And what's something that you have been like watching or playing or listening to that has stuck out to you?
Yeah, sure. The thing that comes to mind recently, actually, is a YouTube channel called Wintergarten.
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with Wintergarten. Um, it's a a channel where the guy on the channel is trying to make a marble machine. In fact, for the third time, he's trying to make a marble machine that plays music. He made the marble machine. I must be got a decade or more ago now. And it was this viral video. It's this kind of like whirly, what was called whirly gig. Is it a whirly gig? All I can think of is called Whirly's design studio now when I think of
Like
whirly gig. But
like a Rube Goldberg or
yeah, but a whirly. I think is it a
oh
whirly gig? Is like a music machine that you kind of
yeah, okay.
you wind up and it plays. He made this like wooden contraption, organ whirligig music box machine thing, um, that like a bit like a little music box that you might buy in a gift shop or something, but
Hmm.
on steroids and more. And then he was kind of disappointed in that as a finished project. So started working on the Marble Machine X and did a lot of work on that for a few years, and then canned that, and is now working on another version of the Marble Machine. But what? And this is his plan is to kind of tour the world with a huge like stage size machine that can play music alongside him and his band. But what's really fascinating to me, particularly, is what took place last year through 2024 in his videos. He sort of had a bit of an existential crisis about the project and about his place as a designer,
Hmm.
and went back to some kind of fundamental things about how he approaches design. And of course, it's got nothing to do with board game design, and yet everything to do with board game design and just design in general. And so he went through this sort of crisis where he yeah dug into some real core principles about what makes good design and how you design something. And he posted this one video. Oh God, I don't remember the title of it, but it was something like the 10 slaying the 10 monsters of design. Or and it was absolutely fascinating to see him go through this process of kind of wrestling with the vision of this project and how to implement it, and his instincts as a designer and where to curb them and curtail them and when to let them flourish. And just there's been so many bits of wisdom from it. And he's working on this really fascinating and inventive and uh, seemingly impossible project as well. I highly recommend it. Just if you're interested in giant design in general, if you're interested in music, he's a fantastic musician. Or just you want to go down a rabbit hole on YouTube for a while, um, Wintergarten, really, really recommend.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I can't even I can't even say that I heard of it, but I do have it pulled up, and I like falling down YouTube rabbit holes, so I've got a new one.
It's a good one.
All right, perfect. Well, we're toward the wrap up question or the wrap up for now, and that's you mentioned that you were working on some expansion material for Kelp, or were in talks with the publisher about that a little bit
Hmm.
previously. And I know you've talked about Blue Sky and kind of like reflecting on your design process and then fun as well. But I've seen that you've been posting about I think it was at least the working title is Den, so kind of
Hmm.
another two-player uh, head-to-head game as well. But I guess, the final question then is what are some things that you want people to look out for from you? And then just kind of tying that into another question that I had linked to this conversation about the different types of fun. So like how so what do you want people to look out for from you, and how has this kind of like recent exploration into these ideas and collaborating and talking about people informed some of the things that you're currently working on? I mean, obviously in an abridged version because we talked about it
Mm.
a
Yeah,
bit, but
sure.
how, you know, yeah, that's a question. I won't keep
Yeah, got
adding
it.
to that question.
Yeah, sure. Um, yeah, it's interesting. So then, I have been posting about that. Like, it's not a confirmed game or anything like that. It's not a signed game or anything. I'm still in development with it, but it's Den Fox versus Badger is my kind of working title. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's another two-player asymmetric game, deeply asymmetric, nature themed. I'm fascinated by these relationships in nature, and that's one that is interesting. It's a very different relationship to the one from Kelp, which is hunter hunted. It's in Den, it's a commensal relationship, and commensalism is where two animals kind of work not together, but they have some benefit. They have a relationship in which gives some kind of benefit to maybe one party more than another party permits it because it gets some benefits from it. It's not a mutualist. It's something similar to mutualism, I think. I'm not a biologist, so I don't know the exact kind of nuances of these things, but essentially the relationship is it's been kind of studied that um, foxes will have been known to try to move into the den or the set of a badger while the badger's still living there. And they do this even though the badger is the dominant animal and could kill a fox. They do it by leaving food, tributes, like gifts, in the den as they kind of move in. And they kind of sustain that food giving until the badger has kind of permitted it to move into the den. And so that would be fascinating in itself. But then the relationship can also extend to them going and hunting together. So they kind of build a relationship to the point where they may go out regularly and hunt side by side, and even to the point which is not been studied so much, but seems to be evidence that they may even raise cubs together. So there's photographs of badgers, adult badgers in the field with fox fox cubs and vice versa. So there's this sort of fascinating relationship in nature, but yeah, it's laced with tension because, like I say, the badger can kill the fox, or the fox could take too much of it. They're competing for the very similar food in the food that they eat. So there's an element of competition there where the badger could also be kind of in decline because if the fox flourishes too much. So I'm trying to capture that in a game that is for two players. And um, the second part of your question, like how is thinking about fun influence that? It absolutely has because I'm getting better, and I think I've still got a long way to go at when I start working on a project, having a really robust and complete vision for the game, specifically relating to what kinds of fun and experiences I'm trying to deliver for players. So I'm now on a kind of a third major version of Den because each time I have realized my vision for the game wasn't rich or strong enough. Like I was capturing elements of the theme, but not everything. So like the first version was just about them being in competition and collaborating a little bit, and the fox kind of leaving gifts in the den. And then I realized that wasn't really enough, so I went back and added in a level of survival, like that's trying to survive at the same time a year and get through winter, a very cruel, brutal winter, which kind of heightened the stakes. And then I realized still that wasn't enough. It was like, well, what's special about these characters? So in my current version, I'm really trying to bring an element of the fox is a trickster in folklore, so and kind of bringing in a little bit of more bluffing and sneakiness on the part of the fox and power. We talked about power for the badger that I want the badger player to feel like they're the dominant one in this relationship, but that they can't abuse that too much or it will backfire on them. So as I kind of work through the vision, I'm going back to my core systems again and trying to make them deliver that as in as honed a way as possible and in the most direct way as possible. So yeah, that's one of the big things I'm working on at the moment. And as I said, the Kelp, an expansion for Kelp is something that's hopefully in the pipeline at some point that I'm still developing and testing a lot and working on that. And then also, I had the idea because of, again, thinking about fun of potentially coming up with a Kelp Junior or a kids version of Kelp that I think has some potential. So that's another project that I'm having a go at, and it's a lot of kind of related projects at the moment because my time is fairly limited. So a lot of my other ideas for games, like said, I kind of had an idea for a victorless game, an unranked game. That's still really much just an idea, and I'm kind of working on the vision. But and then last thing I'll quickly mention is also I think there's a lot of space within the system of Kelp of revealing blocks and the hidden kind of movement games. So I have another game about again a relationship, a hunter-hunted relationship that I'm working on with a collaborator called Field, which is Field Owl versus Mice, and so that's kind of more of a direct. If that ever came to be, it would be more of a direct sequel to Kelp, just with a different set of animals, so a different flavor to the game, some different mechanisms in there. But yeah, it's a lot of exciting stuff for me. Also frustrating because I want to do so much and I've only got limited time. But yeah,
Yeah, that I mean that all sounds like absolutely fantastic. And first off, congratulations on the success, like the tremendous success of a first project. Like, it's been extremely well received. I've got we talked previously. I've been able to play it the one time, and I really like it, and I'm looking forward to losing at it many more times in the future. So yeah, I
great.
am
Thanks.
excited to, see your development process, like appreciative, well, A, that you outline it and like post and, work through it in the social media space. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk about the thoughts here and just taking the time to talk with me in general. I've had what I can only deem, well, it was super fun. So
Me too, Ryan. I really, really enjoyed it. I'm glad to do this again at some point in the future. Finish it off.
perfect. Well, we definitely will. We will finish, or else, yeah, or else we're incomplete right now. We're like 2 hours in, and we're not done. So,
All
all
right.
right. Well, have a great day.
Oh yeah, you too.
Intertextual Cardboard Experience, the most fun podcast about board games and any other text that they connect to. Thank you so much for spending your time here. Your support through listening to this podcast means everything to the show's success. If you enjoyed the project, consider giving us a rating or review and sharing it with any other people in your life you would feel would like it as well. Any further support, such as sending an email to say hey, following some of the show's social media accounts, or contributing any monetary support to help pay for some necessary subscriptions would be greatly appreciated. All of that information can be found in the show notes. Until next time, keep playing, watching, reading, listening, experiencing.